Choices, choices, choices. This was my reality a few months ago before buying an e-bike. But why did I make the choice that I made? Why did I choose the Aerial Rider X class? Well, I'm going to answer now, and I'm going to try to be very in-depth and show you why I chose the Aerial Rider X class right now. Let's start to when I lived in this area, Costa Mesa. So, e-bikes piqued my interest initially because I couldn't afford a car. I lived in Costa Mesa, which was a beach city, and it had many bike paths. My initial findings were I found the Super 73. They were a well-established brand, and they had a pretty reputable background, but there was a few problems that I found with the Super 73, and this kind of strayed me off the course of buying one, and here they are. So I'm going to start with the main issue that put me off of buying the Super 73, and that was apparently, and I don't want to say this because I don't know how true it is, but it's what I went off of as a customer, and that was repeated quality control issues with the bicycle. One of the big quality control issues that I kept on hearing about was the motor. The motor, apparently, because it didn't use a full metal drive or it used only a partial metal drive, apparently just kept on wearing out, and you had to get replacement motors, which is such a drag. And I just couldn't imagine, if you're using something as a daily transport vehicle and it's out for a few weeks or a few days at a time, that does not sound very fun at all. Another thing was the LCD screens. I read that the LCD screens, they'd go bad. And let me just say, Super 73 apparently has a very attentive customer service base. But anyway, a big thing that also put me off was the bicycle's price of over $2,200. This was really expensive, even for me at the time, who was looking to buy this as a main transportation. I think they're cool. I'm not going to say anything because I don't have a lot of experience with Super 73, but I mean, in general, it was kind of like putting myself in a situation where, well, I know this isn't going to be as good if I look around or I spend extra money, so I decided, hey, the Super 73 is not for me. Okay, next, why didn't I choose the Juiced Hyper Scrambler or the Juice Scrambler? Well, this is kind of in the same category as the Super 73. So one is the Juice Hyper Scrambler and the Scrambler had really good prices, and they had really good reviews. But the thing is that I never go off the reviews of the website. Now, when it comes to Juice, they had a really good price point. I was very, ecstatic about the price point. These bikes were only around $1,400 to, $1,700, offering 30 miles per hour, a 75-mile range, stuff like that. Very awesome stats. Well, I went on YouTube, and one of the first videos I saw was, don't buy the Scrambler. And as I'm saying, I'm not one to say this, but this is what personally put me off of it. I saw that, and I said, hey, maybe I should do some research. And so I looked on a bunch of forums, and I found that apparently the battery connection was not good. The battery connection was apparently not made right, and there was a big defect in all the battery connections of a certain bike, and to get it fixed you had to call Juiced. And apparently from the forums, what I was reading is that Juiced has a really bad customer service base. Now, I personally actually bought inner tubes from Juiced because they were the only ones that had 4x20 inner tubes, but I just was not going to deal with that. In addition to that, apparently there was a problem with the speed controller on the bike, but I don't know too much about that. But just alone reading about the battery connection, which is one of the biggest things on an e-bike, that's what put me off of buying the Juiced bikes. Now, I'm adding this after the fact. I've done all that research. Apparently, Juiced has fixed the problem, and Juiced, they don't really have any more of those problems. Still, I already made my decision, and if I was to choose between this and the Aerial Rider, I don't know, my Aerial Rider has been super reliable, and, I just think that, if I was to choose, I'd still be a bit nervous about the quality on the Juiced bikes, just for the fact that they had that one problem and I already know a reliable brand. So I just don't know if switching would ever be really an option if I had to get another bike similar to mine. So how did I get to the aerial rider? Well, it's kind of a funny story. So after leaving Costa Mesa, I actually started working at Home Depot, and I was doing research on how to get back and forth from my trip efficiently. Now, a few months before, I saw an ad for a bike called the Aerial Rider X-Class, and this was, something that I was already looking at. And this ad, I clicked on it, and this bike was affordable, it was pretty cheap, and it was all that I wanted. The only real problem was that it didn't have really any reviews. There was no one that really reviewed it, so I was really skeptical a few months before to even take a chance on this bike. I mean, Aerial Rider, they're a pretty good brand, but at the time, they didn't have many reviews, they were an existing brand, and I just didn't feel confident in buying from them. Okay, so we're going to fast forward to when I actually got the bike. So, there was not too much that I could find on the bike. This was like something that was just new to me. I didn't have an electric bicycle before. I only rode, manual bikes, downhill bikes, mountain bikes, stuff like that, and I was just really still a little skeptical. Until before I left Costa Mesa, I found a YouTube channel called the Ebike Noob, and he got the bike right around when I was leaving Costa Mesa, and he didn't have too many miles on it, so I was like, you know what, this guy got it, so I'll wait for this guy to put a lot of miles on it, and I'll see what he says. So we can fast forward a few months, and the Ebike Noob uploads his own 1,000 mile review. This is a video of him riding. I'm not taking any credit for this video at all. This is his, and he does a lot of riding videos, and I think that him putting up a 1,000 mile review really put a lot of confidence in my purchase. Now, I was working at Home Depot at the time for about 3 months, so I had enough money for the bike, and I decided, hey, this is what I want. In addition, one thing that I noticed the Aerial Rider X-Class had over the other bikes was that it was not only full suspension, it had a lot of good quality parts, like a full metal gearbox, or I guess a drive. It had a pretty, nice looking aesthetic, and it wasn't ridiculously priced. So I said, you know what, this bike seems perfect. This guy has, the bike at 1,000 miles, and it seems to be working for him, so there shouldn't be any problems with me getting it. Okay, so I buy the bike, and I am waiting. I think I waited about 2 weeks, and I didn't see any report of it moving on my shop app, and Aerial Rider uses the shop app. So I messaged Aerial Rider, and I just said, oh my gosh, I'm kind of scared that this bike isn't going to come in a while, because I was watching this video, and I think I commented on some guy's video, saying, how long does it take the bike to get here? And he said 100 days. Now, that was clearly a miscommunication, because I messaged the Aerial Rider team. I was like, hey, if it's going to come in 100 days, I think I'll just save up my money and get a different vehicle. And they said, no, it should be shipping this week. We don't know where you heard 100 days from. And this is literally so interesting, because I was so close to canceling my order, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because my happiness to the quality of this bike is so high. So about 1 week later, or less than a week, like maybe a few days later, I missed the UPS truck. I missed the UPS truck, and you got to catch those guys the second they got that bike, quick. And so I missed the first one, and then the second one, I was like, I had to go to the bathroom, and I said, oh my gosh, if I miss this because I'm going to the bathroom, I'm going to be so devastated. So I go to the bathroom, I'm on the toilet sitting in the middle, and I hear a knock at the door, and I quick wipe, and I'm probably not even clean, but I don't wash my hands, I run straight to the door, because I know if I don't catch this guy right now, I'm going to have to go to the UPS center, I think it was UPS or FedEx, and I'm going to have to tell them my order, and that is a hassle because this bike would have never fit in my car. So what next happened? Well, I got the bike and I assembled it. I assembled it wrong, by the way. The bolts that are put on the little peg that hold the front wheel in place are not meant to go on the actual wheel bolt, or I don't know what to call it, the the hub bolts or whatever, or the through axle for the actual wheel. I guess they're retention bolts for holding the shocks in place, but I kind of messed that up, but it's not too big of a deal because the bike still worked and I was still able to screw everything on. And I remember the first time I got into this bike, the sheer surprise of the size of it was what was crazy. I thought this bike was going to be tiny. I thought it was going to be like a 50cc dirt bike or something, like, not really big. And the size of this bike in comparison to me was, well, it was cool. This bike, when I got it, was, I don't know how to say, shockingly large. It was very fast. So the day that I got it was Halloween. I got it Halloween night, or Halloween day. And when I got it Halloween day, it was Halloween, so I obviously didn't have too much to do, it was a holiday. So this day was also the day that I decided, I'm leaving Home Depot. It was a night job, so I thought it wasn't that cool. And I rode my bike around and I thought it was so cool. And I didn't really care how cold or how hot it was at the time. I just rode this bike and it was just such a surprise about how high quality the bike was when it came. I mean, this bike was a large, fast electric bicycle. And so I never expected it to take me to the limits that it's taken me. I've done over 1,000 miles on it now. It's been well over, 5 or 6 months now. Or it's been around almost 6 months. So it's over 5 months, and this bike has lasted all that time. And honestly, I've put this bike well through its paces. I've taken it out in the rain, the sleet, the snow, and the cold. And this bike hasn't failed me. This bike is still very reliable. I'm really happy with the quality of it. And if I was to say, did I make the right choice? You know what? Yeah, because Aerial Rider, their customer service, the quality of their bikes, everything is great. So would I get another Aerial Rider? The answer to that would be yes, absolutely. This is probably one of the best purchases I've ever made in my life. I've said that again and again, and everyone before I bought this, they were like, why don't you save and get a car? But the thing is that cars during this time are not cheap. They're gonna cost a lot, and the distance I was traveling, I have a car, but it's not gas efficient, and I wanted to get a different one. I am super happy with my purchase. This bike has literally been through all seasons, all weather, and it's lasted so long. So would I get another Aerial Rider X-Class? Yeah, if I had the money and I wanted to get it for, my cousin, or I wanted to upgrade myself, I absolutely would. This bike is definitely worth it in more than a few senses. This is a great bike. It's fast. It's pretty cool looking. It looks really awesome, and it's fun. It's something that I think over the Super 73 or the Juiced e-bikes, this bike doesn't have any problems. I have heard barely any problems or any qualms with the company, and they're just really good. It's overall a great bike. So if you think this review helped you, please just like the video and subscribe. Comment down below what you would want to hear. And, honestly, if, my final opinion is get this bike if you can get it, because it's not going to be cheap for long, because you know what, the demand's so high for all e-bikes. A quality e-bike like this is going to be sold out pretty soon.